This is an interesting headline, isn't it? This is a very, very, very interesting headline because you already can tell what kind of salt is going to come off a headline like this. My Little Pony cartoon adds lesbian couple to final season. People are going to freak out. Let's be fair. You add lesbian or gay into anything that's traditionally aimed at children, people are going to freak out. So let's see what they're saying here. At least let's say what one angry gamer says, because oh, it should be interesting. So it says, seems like every month we're reporting on a kids cartoon, kids show, and entertainment aimed at children, adding more and more LGBTQIA plus content. This time around, it's My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, that's jumping into the deep end by adding a lesbian pony couple to the final season of the show. Now, we have been seeing a rise in some of these things, but it's not necessarily like outside of the Arthur, Mr. Rat Wedding, or they call it the gay rat wedding. We don't see a lot of it. And I think, at least in children's entertainment, what I think we see more of are people on, like, I want to say like the fringe left that have been coming out and doing like the 10-year-old drag show, or the 10-year-old drag star who then does a strip tease in front of people at a strip club. Those kind of things that are just like wildly inappropriate for young children. And I don't know. And I'm like a Sanders supporting lefty, and even I'm like, ha 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 ha. Can you wait for the children to at least be of age and not force this down their throat? And I guess some of the arguments being made here about My Little Pony could probably be ultimately the same, with one key exception, and that is the sexuality factor of it. Right. And I think we have to differentiate between the lifestyle and the sexuality. Now, two people might argue, aren't the two the same? Don't the two overlap? And yes, and they do. But like a lot of things have a Venn diagram in this world, and a lot of things overlap in some aspects. But what we're talking about is how they're presented, the context of how they're presented, and exactly what is going to be shown to children. And I do think that plays into it, especially with something like My Little Pony, and not a 10-year-old in drag dancing while men throw crumpled up dollar bills at them. You know what I mean? Like, there's a key difference between there. But unfortunately, this website, One Angry Gamer, is not going to be the type to necessarily make that distinction. And as much as I like this website, I think that's a fair criticism. So according to comicsbeat.com, in the episode The Last Crusade, it was revealed that the ponies encounter two caretakers named Aunt Holiday and Auntie Lofty, and says here, at first glance, one might be tempted to assume that it's Sabrina the Teenage Witch situation, two adult siblings as illegal guardians of their niece a la Aunt Hilda and Aunt Zelda, but it soon becomes evident that Holiday and Lofty are not siblings, but even in-laws, but in fact, a romantic lesbian couple. Those monsters. In any case, if there's any lingering doubt, Michael Vogel, the writer-producer for MLP and former vice president of development for Hasbro, has confirmed the relationship. And he says here on Twitter, when I say cute couple, I'm saying that Aunt Holiday and Auntie Lofty are definitely a cute couple. And he says that he's doing what he can to bring more equality to Equestria. This is June. This is Pride Month. It just seems to make a lot of sense. And again, for how he's doing it, I'm not necessarily sure how I feel on the subject matter, but I think because I don't watch My Little Pony, I generally don't care. But like I've said before, it has a lot to do with the context of which Aunt Holiday and Auntie Lofty are presented. Right now, if the two women just appear as women and they happen to be in a relationship and that's not explicitly dictated, then it's really, what's this got to do with the Breast of China situation? But if Auntie Lofty and Aunt Holiday are straight up going, oh, scissor me timbers, that's a little bit of a different situation, and one that should definitely be looked at, don't you think? I mean, like, that should be talked about. If they are up there engaging in sexual acts with one another, clearly that's bad. But I think we all can agree that when it comes to the MLP fan base, that is probably the least degenerate thing that could come out of that fan base. I've seen you 4chaners and your MLP board and the type of stuff you get up to. There's a reason why good, God-fearing Christian people don't go to that board. I'm neither God-fearing nor Christian, but I do have a sense of morality. That being said, ComicsBeat also noted that the two gay aunts had appeared before in a book called Ponyville Mysteries, Riddle of the Rusty Horseshoe. However, in that appearance in the TV show, in the first time the lesbian couple, this is the first time they'll be introduced to the kids in the program. All right. So the episode has already aired in other regions. YouTubers, just like fans, have uploaded the 22-minute episode so we can watch it. And they're only present during the first couple minutes. So it's really not that big of a deal. It's really not that big of a deal. Ultimately, it doesn't matter at all. Like I said, if they're not scissoring each other, if they're not, muff diving and, trying to, whatever slang I can think of for lesbian sex, then it doesn't matter. Right? Because we do live in a world where acceptance for the LGBT community is definitely growing, and it's legal here in the United States. And so presenting it as just being normal is fine. The gay rat wedding from Arthur was fine. The two men got married. Whoop-de-doo, not the end of the world. I mean, look, I grew up in Portland, Oregon, okay? And you might think, oh, lefty, whatever. No. In the 90s, it wasn't that lefty. All right. Like in the 90s, there was a huge controversy about putting pro-gay and pro-lesbian books in the libraries of our schools. Heather has two mommies, that kind of thing. And people lost their mind over it. But here we are, well over 25 years later, a few decades later, and we are living in a different society. So the question then becomes, does this actually have a negative impact on children? And the answer to that is probably not. Because if it's not being showcased as something that is overtly sexual, that is something that is disgusting or degenerate or wouldn't take place on any other kind of programming, then it's really kind of a much ado about nothing situation. If you want to argue, but the children, won't somebody think of the children? How many kids watch The Walking Dead? How many kids watch very violent, disgusting television and play very violent, disgusting video games that you're never out there arguing against that? Oh, well, they're designed for adults. Even PG-13 things that are designed for kids go a little bit too far every once in a while. So we live in an age where it really is up to the parents to have that discussion and let that be what it is. If you believe in free speech and you believe in free expression, then by having these two characters appear for only a couple minutes at the beginning of an episode in the final season, and they're not straight up, going at each other like Mr. Garrison in the Les Beaux episode of South Park, there's nothing to worry about here, right? It's just a moral, it's a moral outcry over a very, very, very not even issue. If gay people are allowed to get married in this country, then they should be allowed to exist in media. They should be allowed to exist in a way that shows them as being normal. That is, unless, of course, you are getting upset at this because you don't view homosexuality as being normal. And that says more about you than it does quite literally anybody else. This isn't me being, I'm trying to do an SJW. If you want to call me an SJW over arguing for equality, by all means, I really don't care. That is the stupidest argument a person can make, in my opinion. Oh, I'm upset that he's defending the lesbians' right to exist. Come on. The big controversy from this comes from who is going to air it, who is going to talk about it, how they're going to talk about it, instead of it just being two humans that happen to be, well, they're ponies, but two people, two ponies, two things, two souls that love each other. I think it's absolutely ridiculous to get mad about this, to frame it as being anything else than just being a cartoon. And let's be fair for a second. The vast majority of the MLP fan base, they're over the age of 18. The vast majority of them are definitely going to be the people that are going to be applauding this sort of thing. And that's the audience that they're trying to reach. People like me, people like Billy D here from One Angry Gamer, we're not the audience. Doesn't mean we can't talk about it, but we're not the intended audience. And if a parent has a huge issue with this, then they should sit down with their children and discuss to them when they're of age just exactly what the LGBT community is. I think that's really all I got to say about that. I leave it to you, your thoughts, your opinions. I want to hear them. Let me know how you feel about this. Let me write it down in the comment section. They should be spicy, should be fun. If you made it this far, type MLP into the chat so I know. And I'll talk to you guys later. Have yourself a great day and peace out.